we're in an identity pivot, right? Which is such an opportunity for us to identify what the ego is trying to protect us from, that we are getting pushed up against, and create an opportunity around it, right? So I'm Jena Rodriguez, and I am a transformational mentor and growth strategist with Brave Masters. And I'm coming to you live from a brand new system, Restream. I am praying this is working. I am all over the place. So we're going to test it out and see if it works. And why am I doing that? Because I want to reach as many people as possible. So if this conversation serves you, please share it, comment. Let me know that you're here live and also on the replay. Hit #replay. All right. So what is an identity pivot in my conversation and my definition? And so I talk a lot about how the false self or the egoic self, which is on high alert. We're at DEFCON 5 for a lot of you. Some of you might be at DEFCON 1 or 2, depending on where you are with everything going on in our world right now. And so you want to identify where your sensitivities are and what I call ego tricks. What ego tricks are playing you? Fear might be one, worry, concern, which is all a part of fear, and maybe you're trying to figure out how to maintain control, right? That's another one. I call that requirement, and we have requirements a lot as an egoic part of us, and it's all there. It's all on purpose to keep us safe, to keep us comfortable, to keep us, in play, right? And yet our higher self, that faith-driven, knowing part of us, right? That safe part of us, the part of us that knows everything's going to be okay, that you can really breathe into. And it's sitting there waiting for us to recognize it. And yet our egos are getting really, really loud and doing a lot of jumping jacks. and I think the biggest thing that we're going through right now is what I call the identity pivot. And see, the ego has an identity. It is clearly attached to the idea of the ideas and the expectations and the ways that we are used to doing things, the things that we took for granted, which are being stripped away from us right now in some way. And it has this identity that is getting rattled, right? The ego is getting rattled, and it is at risk of dying off, of disappearing, and that's what it's holding on to. So that egoic part of us, which is operating either unconsciously or consciously, right? You choose. And we've got to do the work to get to the unconscious part, because this is such an opportunity. I think it's a great opportunity for us to do the inner work. I think it's time for us to go inward and identify what identity we've been attached to and pivot that. I just got off this training, and I was talking about how it was the beginning of a 9-week program, a live program that we're doing, that I spend time with other experts, and we help business owners to move through strategy, accountability, and grow their businesses. And yet today was the first session where I spoke to the 90% of the game, which is mindset and emotion set, right? And I was talking about this identity pivot that we're in. There's a lot of conversation. I've had it too, where I'm doing it for that matter. There's a lot of pivoting happening in my strategy and my business strategy, in my relationship strategies, right? I'm pivoting on the things that I'm doing. But more importantly, I think this is the opportunity to check in with who we're being as an identity, right? And our identity pivot is about looking and owning who we said we were with everything that we were used to, and who we have to become to be what's next, right? And to lean into the change that is absolutely inevitable in our world and in our environments, in our businesses, and our financial situations. We all have situations going on, and this is not about dismissing the fear or the hardship that people are feeling right now, but this is saying rise up to the occasion to check in with your identity pivot. This is your opportunity to pivot your identity, your beingness, and lean into what you can create out of this. Right? Maybe if the job is gone and your heart's been pulling you towards doing something on your own, this is your chance to pivot your identity. Maybe if you're at home instead of out and about, you can get quiet enough to hear your true heart's desires, right? Maybe this is an opportunity to build the relationship instead of breaking it down. Maybe this is your chance to get closer to your children versus farther away. Something that I'm committed to is consciously parenting. And one of my favorite people that I follow is Dr. Shefali. And she's written a book on conscious parenting. And that's my commitment. And that's always been my commitment in my personal development journey has been to get conscious. And this is your opportunity to wake up. I think this is our chance to rise to the next evolution phase of wherever we have been to where we are going next. And something I just wrote down, I'm writing a book, right? So I'm writing some information down and I was like, wow, what I'm noticing is there's 3 phases, actually 4. I just haven't got to the 4th one personally. I'm in the 3rd one, but there's these 4 phases of life, of evolution, of emotional evolution. And one being, I call brave by survival. Then there's brave by choice. Then there's brave by purpose. How about that? Then there's brave by oneness. And I haven't gotten to the 4th one. That's the journey I'm on, right? But last year I saw how I pivoted, my identity pivoted, and now we're in another one. It went from that brave by choice up to brave by purpose. And so why am I coming live with you? Why am I here? And Monica, great. Yeah, not time to contract, right? This is expansion time. And so why am I here? And why am I in that purpose phase? And I believe that we are either, we can contract and move back to our brave by survival or our brave by choice or our brave by purpose. If you're in the 4th one, I would say that's probably very few human beings on the planet is in phase 4, but that's my goal, right? And so you've got to outsmart the ego. You've got to recognize what it's doing right now. And what it's doing right now is it's trying to hold tight to the identity that it has had. It is holding tight. It is trying to hold it all together. It is trying to keep you safe. It is throwing you into fear and worry so that you'll paralyze yourself so you don't have to take action. It is making you, potentially obsessed about, I'm like, wash your hands. But even my ego, like a week ago, when I started recognizing I've got to wash my hands a whole bunch, I was like, wow, this feels really obsessive right now. And yet it's kind of the thing we're supposed to do. Like our new identity should be about washing our hands or being healthy, right? Building our immune systems. And so I think this is an opportunity and not an identity crisis, but an identity pivot. Right? And so here's a couple things that you can do to identify your pivot, like what's really going on for you. And one thing is to write down all the things that you have taken for granted in your life, right? In being able to go outside whenever you feel like it, being able to walk into a restaurant and socialize, right? Like write down everything that you've taken for granted, like the job and the paycheck is there. Whatever you've been in expectation of, meaning I expect this to happen every single day, right? And things have completely kind of flipped its head, right? Flipped on its head. And so that's the step 1. And then look at, I'm looking at my notes, so in that same conversation, like look at what you seemingly can't do is another angle to write down, right? What do you seemingly can't do? Because can't is an ego trick. I can't do this, or I have to do this, versus the opposite option. And so when you start to identify these things, then the next layer is what fear is behind it. What concern do you have about it? What's rattling you about this identity pivot time of life? And I would say, like, where in history, and I know this is not the first historical thing to occur, but we are a part of history right here, right now. And certainly maybe in your own life, this is historical, meaning, you've had hardships. And I want you to to tap into that. It's like you have survived things. You have overcome. You have been given gifts that look like struggle and hardship. And I've got my list as well. And yet we will rise beyond this. And if you come from that place, if you come from the higher self and outsmart your ego, your experience of this current situation, this current landscape, you get to choose. You get to generate that experience. You get to decide how it shows up for you. But in order to do that, you've got to like outsmart the ego and identify what is the ego trying to hold on to? What are you attached to? And that's why I offer those questions and inquiry for you to look at. So journal, and for me, one of the things I recommitted to, even yesterday, a friend of mine called me out, and thank you for the call out. Sometimes we all need to be called out. Is that I've been avoiding getting quiet. It's like I went into my masculine energy, which is to do, push, figure it out, focus, like all that energy, but not coming from a place of like higher self and just doing things that are inspiring for me to show up. Right. And so what I saw was that busyness, and this has been an MO in my life. Right. So one of the things, my identity pivot, right, I just slid right back into an old identity pattern of my ego, which was to get really, really busy and work 12-hour days. That's what I did all last week. and then I started recognizing, I'm like, whoa, this is not sustainable. I can't sustain that. And so what do I do, right? What do I do? That was the concern. And so last night, my friend called me out and said, guess what? You're in avoidance. And that is the trick that I've been playing. And I've been avoiding my meditation. I highly recommend you guys to go figure out how to take some quiet time during this stay at home, right? Because that quiet time can allow you the opportunity to hear your higher self versus all the egoic chatter, right? The egoic voice going wild right now. And to quiet that down and calm the nervous system, it's an immune booster, guys. So like get quiet. And so I tripled down. I decided I'm going to meditate like 3 times a day. And just 30 minutes each, right? Just quiet the nerves, quiet the mind, be with myself, right? Be quiet. Time out, call it whatever you want. If meditation triggers you, like I don't meditate, right? Then just call it time out, right? I need some time out. I need to be alone. I need some time out, and go put some headphones on and sit still, right? I did say last year, one of my quotes is stillness is the best productivity tool. And I proved it to myself last year. And then I saw this last couple weeks with everything going on that my ego like slid back into get busy. Get really, really busy. And then that just creates more avoidance of what I need to look at. So again, last night I committed to getting quiet, and I tripled down. Like I put it on my calendar. I blocked it off. It's a part of the routine. Build your routine. So I say all that, and I could say a lot more, but I just wanted to bring up this conversation about identity pivoting. That is what's getting rattled in all of our lives right now, because we have been so used to and taken a lot for granted, and it's getting ripped away from us very quickly. And I think this is a big opportunity to use it for our good, for ourselves and for the planet at large, is to use it for our good. And so what is your identity pivot? Share with me when you figure it out, right? Let me know. You can do it privately. You can DM me if you'd like. But just share with me and really just take that ownership of, wow, I have been attached to this identity. And now I get to redefine myself. I get to redefine what that identity is and outsmart the ego. So I trust this has been helpful. Let me check out some conversations here. Ooh, I got a new tagline, Monica. Thank you. Outsmart your ego. I appreciate you, Monica. That is perfect. And and she said also, it's not time to contract. It is time to expand. 100% agree. And I really appreciate you all being here. So stay tuned. I'm going to do more lives, more conversations to help you identify what is that inner work that this is offering all of us an opportunity for, and I am here with you. That is what Brave Masters is all about, is getting your brave on, is about facing yourself and really owning the opportunity that's in front of you. And when you take personal ownership of everything that shows up and look at this as something that is happening for you and for us, then we take back our personal power, right? So hashtag outsmart your ego, hashtag identity pivots rock. I'm like, I could come up with all kinds of hashtags. But until then, please connect with me. Please say hello, comment below. And until next time, stay brave. All right. Talk to you soon.